All right, let's try to finish up with what we started the other day. And let me just see. Yep, so we got teach you two little things, and we'll do two examples, and then we'll be finished with 2-3. All right, let's talk about parallel lines first. And what do we know about parallel lines? They have the same slope. Very good. Okay, they don't intersect each other, correct? But what we're concerned about today is that they have the same slope, which makes things kind of nice when they have the same slope. All right, so let's do an example. We'll go back to perpendicular lines. Yeah, we'll go after example 4, we'll go back and talk about perpendicular lines and what the relationship is between them. But with parallel lines, they have the same slope. So if I call that line 1 and line 2, so the slope of line 1 is going to equal the slope of line 2. Everybody see that? So if this has a slope of 2/3, what's this going to have? Slope of 2/3. Everybody got that? All right, so that's pretty easy to remember. Would you agree? Because they slant the same, right? They exactly the same slant. If I was to move it around, am I changing the slant of it? No, it could be here, it could be here, it could be here. It doesn't matter where it is. All right, they have the same exact slant, and so they are parallel to each other. All right, let's do the example 4 then. Did any of you guys actually do these correctly because you remembered it from geometry? You did? Okay, good. Thank you. At least my time was not spent in vain last year. But even if I could speak, even if you didn't remember it from last year, I'm teaching it from scratch right now. So when you see this problem on a quiz or a test, you should be able to get it right. Now, it says write the standard form. That's really not the part of this example that we're trying to do, but it is a little different, so we do want to put it in standard form. What is standard form? Do you remember that? AX plus BY plus C equals 0. All right, and it passes through. Now, they have a lot of words in here. It says write the standard form of the equation of a line passing through. All right, so I'm not going to write all those words. It's in the book, but I'm just going to put the important information down. That passes through -2, 3, and is parallel to, I will write that down, it's parallel to this line, x plus 2y equals 8. What I want us to do, you don't have to do what I'm going to do to get the right answer to the problem, all right? Everybody hear me say that? What I'm going to do is just to show you, just to give you like a visual, a visualization of what you're actually trying to do, all right? So I'm going to graph this. You don't have to graph it. Everybody hear me? All right? You don't have to graph this, but I am going to graph it just to show you what's going on, because I could show you step by step on how to get the problem, but when it comes time for you to do it, I think if you can remember what you're trying to do here, I think it'll make it nice and easy. So here we go. What I want to do is I want to graph this thing right here, okay? So let's graph that. Again, I'll say it again. You don't have to do what I'm doing right now in order to get the answer to this problem, okay? I just want you to visualize what's going on, all right? If you don't even want to write this part down with the graph, you don't have to, all right? So how do I graph this? Well, I wanted in y equals mx plus b to graph it, correct? So I'm going to subtract an x from both sides. and I'm going to divide both sides by 2. All right, so y equals, that's negative 1/2 x plus 4. So if I wanted to graph this, I could. You don't have to. 1, 2, 3, 4, but I'm going to just so you can see what's going on. The slope is negative 1/2, so I rise 1 and I rise negative 1, so I go down 1 and I go to the right 2. I'm going to do that a couple more times just to stretch my graph out a little bit. Now I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go up 1 to the left 2, up 1 to the left 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, you don't have to draw all those points. I just like to because I like to connect the last ones. And there you go. So that's the line that they give me. Everybody see that? So that wasn't too hard. I just wanted to find what that line looks like. And that's what it looks like right here. Now, I got to find another line. Not this one. They already gave it to me. I want to find another line that goes through this point and is parallel to this red line right here. All right, let's make it a different color. Let's go blue. Now, I want you to write, well, don't worry about the graph, but I'll do this in a second. So the line that I want to write down goes through this point and is parallel to this line right here. So what do you think I'm going to do if I want to visualize what's going on? Let's plot that point right there, negative 2, 3. So I'm going to go negative 2, 1, 2. I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3. Now the line that I'm going to do it in blue, all right? I want it parallel to this line. So if it's going to be parallel to this line, what do I know about the slopes? They got to be the same. So what is the slope of my line that's parallel to this line? I'm going to put a little parallel symbol right there. Is that all right? The slope of the parallel line would also be what? Negative 1 over 2. Now, how did I know the slope was negative 1 over 2? Because I took this and I put it in slope-intercept form. So this is something that you needed to do to be able to find the slope. Did you have to graph it? No, you didn't have to graph it, but you did have to find what the slope of that line was. All right, so I find the slope of this line, and the slope of my line is going to be the exact same thing. But my line goes through the point negative 2, 3, right there. So how would I graph my blue line? Well, I know it goes through negative 2, 3, and it has a slope of negative 1 over 2. So negative 1 over 2, negative 1 over 2, negative 1 over 2. I'll just do a few of these. Up 1 to the left 2, up 1 to the left 2. Let's do one more right there. Is that okay? So I'm going to connect from here to here and check it out. It's got the same exact slope, so what must be true about those two lines? They must be what? Parallel. Everybody see that? Now, what am I trying to do? What are they asking me to do? They're asking me to find the equation of that blue line. That's what they're trying to get you to do. Okay? I want to find the equation of that blue line. Now, we're going to eventually put it in standard form, but for right now, we could put it into slope-intercept form and then put it in standard form. Or, if you wanted to, what's the other form that we learned? Point-slope form, okay? So look, I got a point right here. Would you agree? Yeah. And I have a what? And I have a slope. Why don't we just use the point-slope form? Is that all right? It's kind of new, so we might as well use it again. Do you remember what it is? Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Should be in your notes, right? Okay. So what is my x1 and my y1? Well, that would be my x1, and this would be my y1. Okay? That's where I get the point. And then, of course, the slope, what's the slope going to be? Negative 1/2. Very good. Make sense? So now I'm going to plug everything in, and then I'm going to try to put it in standard form. I want my final answer to look like this. We good? By the way, since I graphed it, I can kind of see where the y-intercept is. What is the y-intercept? It's right there at 2, isn't it? All right. So my y-intercept should come out to 2. All right. Enough of that. Let's do it. Y minus y1. What's my y1? Look up here. What's my y1? It's 3. Good. Equals m. I know what my m is. It's negative 1/2 times x minus x1. What's my x1? Negative 2. So it's minus, everybody watch this very carefully, it's minus a negative 2. Everybody see that? A lot of people get into the trap, just put, oh, it's x minus 2. It's not. It's x minus negative 2, which eventually becomes a what? Plus 2. Good. Everybody with me? All right. So let's do something over here. Let's simplify that. So the left side I'm going to keep exactly the same. This one, what do I have to, when I say I simplify that, first of all, that's going to be a plus, isn't it? And then what do I have to do to this? What's the word? Distribute. Good. So this is going to be negative 1/2 x plus, it's negative 1/2 times 2. What's negative 1/2 times 2? Negative 1, right? So this is going to be plus negative 1, or if you want to, you could just write it what? Minus 1. See what I did? I just distributed that negative 1/2. Now, I'll tell you what, just for fun, it's really not just for fun. Let's put it in slope-intercept form, then we'll put it into standard form. I just want to show you that this graph does match this equation. What would I do? Just add a 3 to both sides, right? Add a 3. So what do we get? Y equals negative 1/2 x. Negative 1 plus 3 is 2. Is that the same as that blue one? Absolutely. Look, it's got a y-intercept of 2 right there, and it has a slope of negative 1/2. So if it did not say write it in standard form, if it just said write the equation, you could just leave it like that and you'd be done. But they don't ask you to leave it like that. How do they ask you to write it? In what? In standard form, in this form right here. Remember what has to be true about the a, b, and c? They all have to be, well, not the a, b, and c. They got to be integers. They got to be integers, okay? Not necessarily whole numbers, because they could be negative, all right? But an integer is kind of like all the whole numbers and the negative whole numbers, all right? The a has to be positive, though. The x has to be positive. So how am I going to change this into this? Well, I need everything on the left-hand side and set it equal to 0, don't I? But before I'm going to do that, what don't you like about this? The fraction, okay? So watch what I'm going to do. You could do this several different ways, okay? There's more than one way to do this, but here's how I would do this. I would get rid of the fraction as early as I could. So what makes this 1/2 or negative 1/2 a fraction? That 2 on the bottom, right? The dividing by 2. So how do I get rid of that 2 that's on the bottom? Multiply it by 2. So I got to multiply that by 2, but that means I got to multiply everything else by 2. So I got to multiply that by 2, and what else? The left side by 2. Writing this down? All right. If you're looking at it and you're like, I really don't know why he's doing that, write it down anyway. You can always go back and look and see why I did this. Okay? And watch the video. Listen to me. Because I multiplied by 2, so this 2 will cancel. Right? That's the whole reason why I multiplied by 2, so I get rid of that denominator. All right? Let's write it real nice and neat now. So what do I have? 2y equals, what's this going to be? Negative x, negative 1x, or just negative x, right? Because the 2 canceled. And then plus what? 4. Now again, it's still not in this form, so what am I going to have to do? I'm going to have to add an x to the other side. Yeah? So let's do that. Now, I'm not going to write 2y plus x, because what goes first here? The x goes first. So I'm going to write what? X plus 2y. Everybody with me? That canceled. I tell you what, why not just get rid of that 4 right now too? Do you agree? And then we got it, everything equal to 0. So that Anybody got their book open? You got your book open? How does it write the answers? Does it write equals 4? Yeah. So I thought for sure when they did the standard form, they wrote it like this. Here's another way that some books write the standard form. I thought this, can you flip back to find out where it shows you the standard form, where it says AX plus BY? It says equals C. All right, my bad on this. It all depends on the author. I think for the pre-calc book, standard form, they write it like this. In this book, so that's my fault on that. On this book, they write standard form like this. In the past, I've always seen it like that. That's what I'm more familiar with in standard form. But I think the author of this book writes it like this. So if this is how they write it in this book, I would accept that, by the way. Right? This would be perfectly fine for me. All right, but how do you think they write it in this book? They actually keep the 4 over here because that's your C, right? So they write x plus 2y equals what? 4, okay? It's basically the same thing, isn't it? Right? They're equal to each other, right? Both of those are equivalent. So that would be okay. Denise? Write a pass. Yes, the B and the C can be negative. So the A has to be positive, all right? And it is, right? So it's a positive 1, so we're good like that. So really, I took way too long on that, but the easiest, let's just go through it super quick. They give you a point, and they say it's parallel. You want to write an equation of a line that's parallel to this one. So what did I do first? What's my first step? Is to find the slope. I don't even care what the y-intercept is, okay? Just find the slope. So I just put it, solve for y, found the slope, and now I know I'm going to use that slope. Why? Because my line is parallel to that line. So the line that I want to find, okay, is parallel to this, so they got to have the same slope. The slope was negative 1/2 for this line, so the slope for my parallel line is going to be negative 1/2. Now, I got a point, I got a slope, I use the point slope form, chuck it in, do the math, and just simplify it till we get to here. All right? Really, it's not that big of a deal. You find the slope of the line they give you a point, right? And so you use that point and that slope to make an equation of a line. Stick it in the point slope form, work it out, put it in the correct form. They want you to put it in standard form. Sometimes they may say, put it in slope intercept form, right? So you put it in slope intercept form, y equals mx plus b. All depends on how they ask you to write the answer. Okay, they don't always ask you to write it in standard form, but sometimes they do. We good? Now what do you think we're going to do? Perpendicular. Now, there is a relationship between two lines that are perpendicular. For instance, I'll tell you what, I'll keep those lines on there, just make it a different color. What if I wanted to find a line that is perpendicular to the red line? All right. So, did we talk about that already? We did last year. Do you remember that if they're perpendicular, the slopes are negative reciprocals? Do you remember that? Negative reciprocals of each other. So, if one line was perpendicular to this line,
Mr. Herbert, can you sit down at the office for a moment?
okay,
Thank you.
then watch this. Instead of this slope right here, that's negative 1/2, correct? All right. If it's perpendicular, it's going to look like this. So how did I get from this point to this point? I didn't go negative 1/2. I went positive, what? 2/1. Do you see that? All right. So if the slope of the red one was negative 1/2, the slope of the yellow one is what? Positive 2/1, or positive 2. All right, so lines that are perpendicular to each other, the slopes are the opposite sign, and you flip the fraction. Okay? So what if the slope was -5 of one line? The line that's perpendicular to it has a slope of what? positive 1/5. Everybody with me on that? What if the slope of one line was positive 2/3? What's the slope of a perpendicular line to that going to be? Negative 3/2. Everybody got that? It's really simple. You change the sign, flip the fraction. That's perpendicular. Slope's a little easier. Why? Because the slopes are the same when they're parallel, right? If they're parallel to each other. If they're perpendicular, you got to change a couple things. Change the negative to a positive and change the fraction by flipping it. Makes sense, doesn't it? You see that? That red line's got a slope of negative 1/2. This perpendicular line has a slope of 2. All right. So what we're going to do is kind of the same thing, except instead of saying parallel to, what's it going to say? Perpendicular to. And the only thing different is you still find the slope of the line they give you, but instead of making our slope negative 1/2, what would we make it? Positive 2/1 or positive 2. It's the only thing different. Everything else stays the same. All right? So let's do an example, and we should be able to finish that pretty quick. And change the sign. You got to do two things. Okay? You got to change the sign, and you got to flip it. All right. So here we go. Now this one, they say write the equation in slope-intercept form. So they say write it in slope-intercept form. Okay? So this time we don't have to put it in standard form. We can just put it in y equals mx plus b. So it says, write the slope-intercept form of an equation of a line that passes through the point 3, 1 and is perpendicular. See, that's the difference. It's perpendicular to the line. They give you a graph this time. Why don't they just give you the equation? Normally they just give you another equation of the line. But on this one they don't. They give you an actual graph. So let's write the graph. Not that it's a bad thing, but it seems like most of the questions they give you, they'll actually give you another equation. But this one you got to figure it out. So let's do that. Let's do it in red. They give you a 0.21, then 1, -2, and 0, -5. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so here's the line that they give you. And you have to find the equation of a line that's perpendicular to this line. And it goes through the point 3, 1. So since they have a graph here, I think it will be a good idea to graph the line that we want to find. So really, the only thing you have to find on this red graph is the what? What do I want to find on this one? Because the slope. I need to find the slope of this red one right here. So you can take any 2 points that it goes through. Here's a nice point right there. Here's a nice point right there that it goes through. Let's find the slope. What would it be? Let's rise what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we rise 6, and we run what? 1, 2, positive. So what's the slope of the red line? It's just 3. So that means what? The slope of our, watch how I write it. The slope of our perpendicular line is going to be what? Is it going to be 3? It's going to be -1/3. And that's really the only thing different on this problem than what we did with the parallel problem. All right? It says perpendicular, so we look at the slope that they give us, which is +3. We had to figure it out, right? They give you a graph, you had to count, rise, run, and all that kind of stuff. The slope was 3 here, so what's the slope of our line going to be? It's -1/3. Let's graph it just so we have a general idea of what we're trying to do. So our line has to go through the point 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. And it's perpendicular to this. So that means it has a slope of -1/3, right? -1, 1, 2, 3. Or you could go +1 to the left 3, yeah? And then you could connect them. Do you have to draw that perpendicular line? No. I'm just doing it because I want to show you visually what you're doing. Do you agree they're perpendicular? Yeah. All right, so I got to find the equation of that yellow line right there. It's actually pretty easy. I know what the slope is, negative 1/3. If I do the graph, I know exactly where it hits the y-axis at positive 2. So what's my equation? Y equals negative 1/3 x plus 2. All right, so you could do it by graphing. Let's say we didn't do it by graphing. All right, let's say you looked at the graph they gave you, figured out the slope, but you didn't want to graph it. You just wanted to figure it out by hand. All right, just do some math and figure it out. Well, let's do it. Since we're putting it in slope-intercept form, let's use the slope-intercept form here. We could use point-slope form like we did on the last one. That would have been fine, but let's do it this way. Ready? Y equals m negative 1/3 x. Let's make that look like a 3. Plus b. Do we know the x and the y? Sure enough, we know that x and y right there. Don't pack up just yet. Let me finish this up. So y is a 1 equals negative 1/3 x, or sorry, not x, but what? 3 plus b. That's a 1. That's a negative 1. Add a 1 to both sides, so what's b? It's 2. So how do I write? So there's my y-intercept, there's my slope. Put it all together because they want it in slope-intercept form. What's it going to be? Y equals negative 1/3 x plus 2. Isn't that the graph of that yellow line right there? Absolutely, because it's got a y-intercept of 2, it's got a slope of negative 1/3, and there you go. Well, that took a lot longer than I thought it was going to take, so we didn't have time to review for the quiz. So we will review for the quiz tomorrow. So what's tomorrow? Wednesday? So Wednesday. So that throws our lessons off a little bit, lesson plan off by a day. But on Wednesday, we will review for the quiz. And Thursday, we will take the quiz. All right, so jot that down. If you weren't able to do those other problems, do you want your homework back? Did I collect your homework, by the way? I didn't even collect it, did I? Okay, good. So finish, what did you have to do to 27? Yes. Did you have parallel and perpendicular on there? No. Do to 33 then. I think up to 33 is the parallel and perpendicular.
Should I just keep it?
Well, you probably didn't finish this because we just learned how to do this. So you're doing, what did it start with?
1 to 33.
1, and then you're going to do 33, and we're just doing the odds, okay? Yeah. So 1 to 33, the odds.